Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another show of Goal Lounge. This is Football Uncensored, brought to you by South African football fans, or the fans of Africa, rather. We're going to cover the Premier League as we normally do, because that's what we love. Today, we have our full squad, which is the second time running for our episode 6. We have Sello.
How's it?
We have Nick.
What's up, guys?
Yeah, we got Mosa, the good old Mosa there.
What's up, guys?
Mateus, or should I say Matinho? That's his new upgrade, by the way. We just thought because his manager was Mourinho, it just made sense to call him Matinho.
I quite like it. I think we can adopt it, Matinho.
And then we've got Wonga, who's causing a bit of, I don't know, he's disrupting the team camp a little bit because he keeps changing his mics and that sort of thing. So the team think we have budget at this moment in time, but we do not have that. So Wonga, please stop showing off all the toys you have at home.
What up, kids? Yeah, you gotta sound good.
I think Wonga's onto something. Wonga, hey, we need new mics as well as that.
We do.
Yeah. Must look like Claudio's one.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. Anyway, so this week, what we're going to start off with is the thing that broke the news pretty much from Sunday evening, and it's just carried on throughout the week. And people are calling it the big proposal, or the big picture proposal, rather. But for us, it's going to be the big topic. So who wants to kick us off in terms of what this thing actually is, so the public and the people listening to us actually know what's going on?
I'm quite angry about it, so I'll maybe start.
Because you're not the top, one of the top 9 teams. That's why.
No.
The rest of us are.
So from what I understand, I do understand sort of the backstory of trying to help lower league teams, and obviously through the pandemic, some teams are nearly going bust at the moment. And I think, the idea behind sort of trying to support them is good. And I do think the Premier League as a whole, together with their teams and stakeholders, need to give back. But I don't think the way it went about is ideal. Simply because it was leaked in the press, and it was obviously going to be done behind all the clubs' backs. At the end of the day, the Premier League isn't 2 teams, it's 20 teams, and you've got an FA that control it. And I had a bit of a bitter taste. So from my understanding, it was Liverpool and Man United who put this proposal together in order to get 6 plus 3, and I say in inverted commas, long-standing Premier League teams to eventually have full control of the Premier League and its voting rights, and in terms of how they make decisions going forward. I think there was also talk of it being an 18-team league, which I don't know what repercussions that would have for the rest of the leagues below, because teams would obviously have to be relegated. I don't know if leagues are going to have to increase size. That would mean 2 teams in professional football in League 2 would need to be relegated. So I don't see how it would have worked. I thought it was quite ironic, and I spoke to you, gents, about it, was in terms of how the 9 teams were selected were based on how long they've been in the league. But if you look at the duration of the Premier League, my team, Newcastle, yes, we've been relegated recently twice, but we've been in the Premier League longer than Man City. So it was quite convenient that they went on calendar years versus the amount of years they were actually, or teams have actually been in the league. So I think it's rather convenient, and I don't think they would ever exclude a Man City with the money that they have. And furthermore to that, I do think this was possibly a reason why the Premier League actually did not give an answer to the Saudi bid that was on the table for Newcastle, because you add probably the richest club in the world, that mix, then you've got to it's a top 7. I know you've got to earn it, you've got to go and win games, and you've got to go finish high in the league. But I just think something doesn't smell right there. And rightly so, I think it was rejected, I think, based on the fact that it was done behind closed doors and not involving everyone. And I think they've pissed a lot of people off. I think
Yeah.
I heard the Everton the Everton owner, even though they were part of the 9, I think he was asked for comment and he was actually livid about it. So I don't know. Something's not right. Something needs to be done, but I think it needs to be done when you bring everyone around a table and not just 2 clubs.
So, Nick, I'm just going to stop you there a little bit, because in terms of project big picture, you've gone straight into it, which is great, because this is what we're here to talk about. But just in terms of, so people have an understanding as to what it actually is, what is the proposal, why are they doing it, what is the need for this? Matt, do you want to get into this, because I can see you itching there?
So, well, I mean, I think on the one hand, it professes to address a serious problem, and we know that funding in football has been pretty messed up for a while. Especially you go lower down in the league system, the Premier League teams are to a certain extent sheltered from it. But Nick touched on it. COVID has kind of the lockdown has really put under a microscope the really bad financial state of a lot of smaller sides, and you can argue some of this is down to mismanagement, but also the truth is that a lot of these teams end up in this state because they have to spend that kind of money simply to compete, simply to keep their heads above water in the leagues, because certain clubs are just throwing money at problems. For example, when the year Huddersfield got relegated, their annual turnover was something like £97 million. Leeds in the same season was only spending something like 8 on wages. So you look at that discrepancy, and that's because the clubs at the time were getting these massive parachute payments. They still do. If you get relegated from the Premier League, you get 3 seasons of parachute payments, which some say contributes to the problem, because that clubs are quite happy to spend away when they get promoted, knowing that if it doesn't work out and they get relegated, they'll land in that cushion of the parachute payment. So the funding of football is messed up, and it needs to get fixed. The problem with this proposal was it started from this position of we're going to fix the funding problem of football, and very quickly morphed into how can we use this position to undermine some of the fundamentals that have defined football in our own favour. I mean, even the simple one about allowing these 9 teams to veto certain decisions, that can it undermines what the Premier League is. The Premier League has always been a democracy where 14 clubs there has to be a 14-club majority to pass any new rules or new decisions. And to change that, you could be in the Premier League, you could get promoted and then still not have a say in how it's run. To me, that goes against what the Premier League is and what football should be. And the also changing of some of the competitions and the changing of the funding model would also make it even more difficult to replicate some of the rags to riches stories we've seen. You know, some of the clubs who've come up, you think about Leicester, not long ago were in the fourth tier and were able to play their way back. Under this new proposal, that would be ever more difficult because of the ceilings placed on clubs in certain divisions. The difficulty, and a club, for example, Newcastle's a fantastic example, actually, because they're a big club and they've got a huge support base. They can generate quite a large amount of funding simply off of their own backs, if well run, which, the argument is not they are at the moment. But they're a club who shouldn't be hamstrung by certain restrictions, but should be offered the opportunity to thrive. And this proposal would kind of put a ceiling above what are today seen as smaller clubs. And I think that's where the bad taste comes from. It's got this, and they sell it as like, oh, but if we don't take this deal now, 17 clubs will go under in the next 7 minutes, buy or go, buy. And I think that's the thing that kind of annoys the most, is that there are clubs who need the funding out of this deal so badly. There were clubs in the lower leagues who were saying, let's take this deal now, I don't care, we're going to go under. And that's a horrible position to be in. Imagine having, your local club that you go to every week, and they're going to be gone. But then if you take this deal down the line, I think there's going to be massive problems.
Yeah, and I like how you've gone about that in terms of the funding and the structure of the model. But we have to break down this deal and actually see what this deal is about, right? But to your point, and I like how you've yes, Sello?
Now, I was saying, like, one of the things that they do mention, though, that when I was listening to it, it kind of does make, they do kind of have a point where they were talking about the TV rights outside of Europe, So in Asia, for instance, in China, right? Let's say it's Man United versus Tottenham, for instance, right? So there's so many people who are tuned into that match, right? But then there's West Brom versus Burnley, and there's literally no one tuned into that match, right? And then now we're splitting those TV rights equally amongst everyone, but then those teams are not the ones that are bringing in the people to view the match. You know what I mean? I understand, yes, it's a product of the Premier League. So I think there are certain things that in the big picture project big picture that they do need to look at. But yeah, definitely this whole thing with regards to the funding model, that's cool for the lower teams, but the whole power grab is not ideal. You know, it's a 2/3 majority, as you said, 14 clubs have to agree to any resolutions, which is how it's supposed to be. You know, next thing, you know, they make up a decision, and then it really impacts on the other teams. You know, you don't want the Premier League becoming a Bundesliga. You know, I think the Southampton manager said, you know, you don't want the Premier League becoming a Serie A or a Bundesliga where there's just only one team that wins the league, you know, because that's what happens in those leagues, is that the top team literally gets most of the money, you know what I mean? Yeah. And they're the ones who almost boss the league, you know. Like, for instance, now Napoli just got a 3-0 loss against Juventus because people were sick, COVID, you know what I mean? Those are the type of things which could happen in the Premier League, you know. Liverpool could just get 3 points, you know, they could reverse the 7-2 loss, you know, all of a sudden, you know.
Yeah, you're right, and it's sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
One of the other proposals that I did sort of find slightly interesting from the Project Big Picture, they were going to do away with the Charity Shield altogether, and they were going to change what's now the Carabao Cup to exclude any team that's in European competitions. So all the Champions League and Europa League teams wouldn't play in the League Cup, and I thought that was potentially quite an interesting model. But I'd like to see it go one step further and say that then the winner of the League Cup, the Carabao Cup, should get a European spot. I think that would be a really cool, interesting way. So maybe the you know, England has 7 spots to go to Europe every season, assuming none of the English teams win any of the cups.
Yeah,
but if those spots to the League Cup winner, I think that could be an interesting shake-up. But I mean, these small things are kind of overlooked against the backdrop of the kind of the power grab that this was perceived to be.
But just a question, guys. With that cup, yeah, they said now, if I understand it correctly, what is the reasoning behind taking out was it the EFL Cup and the FA Cup?
Community Shield.
Yeah, what is the reasoning behind it?
So it's because they think what's going to happen in 2023, 2024 is that the Champions League expand, right? And how they're going to expand the Champions League is that it's not going to be 8 groups of 4. It's going to be 4 groups of 8 in the Champions League. So then you'll find a team playing 14 matches in the group stage in Champions League. And then obviously you need more time in the calendar to play those games. So you remove EFL Cup, you remove Community Shield, you've got the time to play those 14 matches in the group stage in Champions League. So they want to because they know that Champions League makes more money. That's what they're thinking. So that will allow them to obviously play in the Champions League more.
Yeah, exactly.
I read now. Sorry, that also now you see it's also funny because I also read now that it also allowed teams. Now they're looking at the guys, the lower teams now, the ones that want those cup. They said now that for them it gives them an opportunity to go on lucrative tours. That's how they labeled it. But obviously, that's not the case. Obviously, it's always looking out for the big guns, and that's for me. That's what I got the sense of this, is that these guys they saw that look, it does need to change. Like Matt said, the funding needs to change. They saw COVID hit. They saw people are desperate, and then it's obviously it's a conspiracy, but yeah, they just thought, okay, now this is the opportunity to get what we want. Hence, only like 3 clubs or 3 people were really in the conversation, and now they just made it look like.
Take that conspiracy to its logical conclusion. Like, how do we know these guys even start coronavirus? You know, just to push this. Where was the last October? Did we know?
Yeah, and I mean that adds up. That adds up because apparently this is the 17th iteration of the proposal. They've been in discussions for the last 4 years, and it's just now that COVID has hit. And the part of the issue the thing that's caused the making Nick super upset and making everyone else super upset is that the people involved in this. So you've got Rick Perry, which, by the way, if you know he's involved in anything, it's going to be dodgy because he was the guy who ran Liverpool to the ground and then sold the club to Tom Hicks and George Gillette when Liverpool were going down into administration. So he was behind the deal. So anything he's involved in is always for number one. He always looks after himself. So the deals he makes is pretty much to sort himself out, to get something afloat, and then he ducks. So that's also one thing to understand. So now he's in the conversation with the Glazers and with W. Henry from Liverpool. And you've got to understand, Kevin mentioned it in one of the comments, it's basically the NBA and the NFL model. The thing here is you've got Americans coming into the Premier League, and it's to what Matt was saying in terms of football shouldn't be really business run. It should be community focused, and that is why a lot of these clubs break even. They don't run at necessarily a big profit. But these Americans have come in and they've gone, okay, cool, well, how do we monetize this? How do we maximize our profits? One super logical conversation in all of this is removing themselves from the Premier League. Why? Because when you're looking at the distribution of broadcasting and everything else, we've got to look at the different channels as to how revenue is broken up with 4 clubs. We talk about the revenue model. We talk about all these things. Obviously, number one is match day tickets. They're not making their money now. And this is why the EFL League Championship, League 1, League 2, this is why all of them are in trouble right now, because no one's coming to the games, right? Then you've got broadcasting. As it stands, the Premier League divides its broadcasting money. Just from the Premier League, 92% of that money goes evenly to the top 20 sides in the Premier League, okay? Only 8% goes to the EFL. What this deal is pretty much saying at the moment in time is they're saying, okay, what we want to do is we want to take 25% of that broadcasting and share it, distribute it evenly amongst the rest of the league in the EFL. That's one of the many things that they want to do. The other thing is that, I mean, it's very backwards. In the meantime, they also want to take 250 million pounds up front that they're going to deposit or give to the EFL. But an additional 100 million is also going to go compensate for the female teams as well as the FA to help manage national grassroots level. So that money, number one, if you're looking at a Liverpool perspective and you're looking at a Man United perspective, and even the top 6, which, by the way, apparently all of them were included in the conversation. If you're looking at
towards the end,
towards the end, but even Wenger today, he said it's impossible that the rest of the teams didn't know. They were interviewing him. He says it's impossible that they didn't know about it. They obviously said, hey, listen, and even like Man United, Liverpool didn't vote for it yesterday. They voted against it. So you know what I mean? So now they're all saying, no, we're not voting for it, whatever. They try to put the blame on Rick Perry, you know, and say, hey, it's his idea. We got pulled in. And we're like, yes, that's, you know.
Yeah, but so let's take that 250 million pound. I think it's totals 350 million pounds they'll be getting up front. That money could be given by Man United by themselves. That money could be given by Liverpool by themselves. That's the amount of money these sort of top clubs are making at this moment in time. So when you're looking at that, you're looking at Rick Perry and you're going in his situation, what is he going to be remembered for? He is the chairman of the EFL. If he can bring in this money and can kind of steady the ship, then he can leave his post like he did at Liverpool in the first place. So that's one of the things you got to consider in this whole deal-making process. From a Liverpool United perspective, it completely makes sense. Why? Because it comes down, they claim financial fair play. The whole rules of financial fair play is geared up to suit your bigger clubs. It doesn't want competition. They don't want it. So if they can say, for example, one of the other clauses is that they would put salary caps in for the Championship and League 1 and League 2. And then they would also allow Premier League clubs or the top clubs to loan at least 14 players to a side. 4 players to a side, but release 4 players out on loan, so then they can always call them back. So the whole model is geared up to create some sort of sustainability where all these other clubs can then act as feeder clubs. But clubs like then Newcastle at this time would be terrible because they're never going to be able to challenge. And that's the problem with this whole deal. It's kind of turning it into a business model. It's kind of saying these are your powerhouses. And again, you'll end up with a Bundesliga like Sello was saying, a La Liga. And that's kind of not what the Premier League is about. And that's not where the money is.
When you're talking about this loaning out of players, right? I remember now Man City's chief executive, right? He said that he wants each Premier League's second team, right, to go into the lower divisions, right? To go into like a League 2, right? So I'm telling you, Man City knew about this because they said this 2 weeks ago. Man City's chief executive said he wants the Premier League's second teams to go into the League 2s and so forth, and they can get promotion up until Championship, but can't get promoted to Premier League. So that's obviously the La Liga model. You know, the La Liga model is the teams they can make it up until the Segunda division, but can't get into La Liga. Man City also knew about this because he said this 2 weeks ago. So yeah, that's one of the things they're also talking about. You know, so they wanna safeguard the bigger clubs.
It's very much the American model where you've got franchises chosen not because of merit of who gets promoted, but they maximize the geographic spread of teams and go to the cities where there's more people, more fans to watch. And in the lower tiers of the NBA and the NFL and the Major and the Major League Baseball, the lower tiers of all of these sports are just B teams. They're feeder sides to the major franchises. I hate to say it that way. You know, think about clubs from smaller towns. I mean, the Premier League is a fantastic example of that. You look at clubs like Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough's a tiny little, you know, it's a city, but it's not. It's a town, really. But they've been in and out of the league, and they've played some fantastic football. And look at the players that have come through Middlesbrough that have lit up the league, and they don't have the muscle and the long-term kind of sustainability to stay there for long. You know, and even Nottingham Forest have been in and out, and different sides throughout time.
I think Burnley is a good example right now.
Burnley at the moment, you know, they're shining bright, but probably not going to sustain it for very, very long. And I don't want to. I like seeing these clubs come in and you forget they exist. Yeah, Portsmouth, the FA Cup. Do any of us even remember that?
What about Wigan with Roberto Martinez?
Yeah, Wigan, and even Leeds to an example, to an extent. You know, I mean, they've got a lot of football heritage, but it's essentially you know, at the moment, you wouldn't call it a big club, but they up and down, and West Brom doing stuff like that. I still want to see that. I want to see Huddersfield come up and, you know, remind us of the good old days 100 years ago where they were dominating leagues and then pop back down again to the Championship. I don't want that to go away. And if it means that clubs need to be slightly less profitable and a bit more sustainable, then the proposal should speak to sustainability and not profitability. I think that's, for me, the big problem. At the moment, there's a big focus on profitability for the top 6, 9, but there's not much talk about actual proper sustainability. This 250 mil and 25% are kind of, you know, it's to save the situation that the clubs are in now, but to prolong the long-term status of things. It's not going to change the status quo. And I'd prefer a more towards stability. Why doesn't they talk about salary caps for the lower leagues, but not for the Premier League?
Exactly.
Then you and then you're going to salary cap. It has to be all the way down.
So, but that's the interesting thing is it's like the American model, except it's better for the clubs because in the American model, the clubs are still owned by the league. And then the owners are given franchises. In this sort of situation, the clubs are running autonomously, and that's what they're trying to do. And if you look further into the fine detail of the contract proposal, is that one of the things that the Premier League control is broadcasting rights with Sky and everything else. What's happening with what we're doing here live with digital? Digital is a whole new brand new revenue stream for these clubs, and if they do it well, they can make good money. So instead of now, for example, Sky Sports and the other guys are going to be charging £15 to watch a game live. Instead of actually going to a stadium. So again, in that sort of situation, what happens is that the clubs lose out and they gain, and then they're reliant on whatever they tell them. So one of the other clauses that they put in is they're saying 8 games a season would then be given to the clubs where they can then sell it to their fans and run it off their own digital streams. So that's kind of how they're also positioning it. For me, from a business perspective, it makes sense because why shouldn't you have the rights? It's your club, it's your brand, it's you attracting your fans, it's your brand equity that you built up. So why shouldn't you be the one that gets to make the money off of that? And this is where these owners, yes, a lot of this isn't great for football. There will be a monopoly, almost like when you buy that whole street in the game board monopoly where you got Elof Street and everything else, and you're just owning it. So that will happen. But the good thing is there's an outrage because the government are involved, the Premier League are involved, and this has been a shady sort of thing. But it's brought up a lot of questions that need to be asked, a lot of things that need to be challenged, and things that can't, like you said, Matt, like Nick said, the current sustainability of the models in which these guys are running, it isn't suitable for long-term future. So these are sort of the questions that need to be challenged, need to be asked and go, okay, what happens in a Stoke City, for example, who have been relegated? Why should they be dependent on what Sky Sports are doing? If they got enough of the following in their own community, why not just open up Discord, start a community chat, or have their own website where they can live stream, where guys paying £3 to watch a game online instead of having to pay £20 to go travel all the way to Liverpool and then watch their side get thumped, where they could just watch it, and then that money goes straight into the club. So from a strategic perspective and a revenue perspective, these are the right sort of questions. In terms of the model, started, completely no, don't agree with it because it is a monopoly. And part of the thing that why we all, and we've got a Nick joining us in this conversation, is because anyone can win at any time. Mosa, you've been very quiet. It's actually been 24 minutes and you've just been taking this all in. What are your overall thoughts here?
in the back of my mind, I'm wondering, like, I feel like these are the repercussions of Liverpool winning the league. It feels like it feels like I see the benefits of like how funding is made available to lower league clubs and supporting the women's leagues and supporting football in whole in England by having that stimulus package. But I then do get very disturbed by that voting rights, the power of the voting rights, to shift the power over to the 9 longest serving clubs in the history of the Premier League is very skewed, and it does create that dynamic where you then look at it like a Bundesliga and a Spanish league where you can only realistically see 3 or 4 clubs that compete. In some instances, it's only 1 or 2 clubs, and yeah, man. In my view, it helps. The lower leagues do generally get a lot of revenues. Similar case to South Africa. You find a lot of lower league clubs that retrieve a lot of their revenues from having people in the stands, people coming to view their games week in, week out. But the way they're going about it now, in actually giving them money to then purchase their voting rights is quite immoral, if you ask me, and it deserves this outrage that it's received so far, because it just puts too much power in the hands of the owners of the top 6, whereas it should be equally spread. I mean, if they were to provide the same package and keep the voting rights the same, I think it would be something that's better considered. But at this point in time, it just skews everything to the top 6. And in my mind, it's only the result of Man United and Liverpool doing this. It shouldn't be something that...
no, sure. Roman Abramovich had nothing to do with this.
Your owner hasn't been in the UK for 2 years. He's not allowed back in the UK. He's got his own problems. He doesn't like the UK for other reasons.
Yeah, but picture Man City, let's say 5 or 6 years ago, right, before they got the Arab money, and then you found a Tottenham, a Liverpool, and a Man United voting on the ability for them to raise ownership from offshore. Yeah. It would really strain the ability of teams to actually come and compete. I mean, if Newcastle's deal was getting closer to finalization now, and we found this type of rule in place, it'd be easy for the top 6 to come in and say, look, you know what, you know what, this is not suitable for us for X, Y, and Z. And when you look at the X, Y, and Z, it could be really, really nothing. It could be something that they conjured up really quickly. So it's quite concerning, and I'm glad that it's received the amount of rejection it has at this point in time.
It becomes very convenient. Even they're saying that they didn't include the championship clubs in the funding because there's billionaire owners in the championship. You know what I mean? So they're like, no, we don't want to give the championship clubs money because there's billionaire owners. But not every club in the championship is owned by a billionaire. There's probably like there's only 3 clubs that are owned by billionaires in the championship. Other clubs are billionaires, but the other clubs are scrapping through. You know what I mean? You know, your Leighton Orient and other teams. They are like they just want to get to the Premier League, and they're not run by billionaires. So even that, you can just hear that how they feel is to try to exclude.
Yeah, and this is the issue with financial fair play, by the way. So on paper, it sounds amazing, but it hinders your Saudis from taking over Newcastle and becoming a competitive force, because then it says, no, they're not allowed spending more than what they're making. And they can't make more because they haven't had that injection. So they can't win the extra bonus money that they would be getting if they bought the players in the first place to win the trophies that could then increase the broadcasting revenue and the sponsors and. So that's the biggest issue, is now all these big clubs are going, yes. Like, for example, Liverpool, Henry, he came in and he said he's going to play by this FIFA fair play rule, or he's going to do it. And why? Because they're used to doing that in the States. And this is also why, to a certain extent, the Glazers have been caught in between two minds. It's because clearly the conversations between Glazers and Tom Henry have been happening, and their old models in terms of buying the best players hasn't been so successful in terms of a footballing decision. And now they're going, okay, well, what is the approach that these guys are doing? Because they're getting it right. So, and that's why I'm telling you, there's some sort of colluding happening from that perspective, because it makes sense financially. United can make all the mistakes because at the end of the day, they've got the equity globally, and that equity just keeps coming in and converting into cash. So they can do it. Where your Newcastles, unfortunately, once were big clubs, but now Everton seems to be bigger on that list, which is somewhat crazy. Yeah.
I'd like to see a council proposal, a council proposal from 3 much smaller sides.
Yeah.
Whose experience of dealing with football is completely different to Liverpool and United. Like pick clubs from down, like Hartlepool, Southend United, a couple of clubs like that, Colchester United. Have them put their heads together and say, how would they fix football? I'd just like to see what they would talk about and how they would talk about fair play. And it is, the financial fair play, as we know, is a massive nonsense because the rules are there, but if your man's anyway.
Man City do financial doping every season.
And they got caught out. They got banned.
Financial doping.
Yeah, that's financial doping, man. They inflate the sponsorship amounts, man. It's a symbiotic.
Yeah. Like it's one of those cases.
Their owners literally own Abu Dhabi. And who are the Man City sponsors? It's Etihad, Abu Dhabi's carrier, and it's other Abu Dhabi businesses. They basically just saying, hey, man, listen, I'm giving you this much, sponsor Man City. Sponsor Man City. Just does that. Boom.
But the issue, Sello, you say that, and yes, this is the part, so financial fair play again. If Newcastle gets that Saudi money, they can then do exactly what City have done in the sense.
City's doing. Yeah.
But what I'm saying in terms of City they're not just pulling funds anymore. They've put the funds in and they've set up a lucrative model. For example, the My City Group. When you're looking at My City Group, it's a fantastic business model. They've got New York City, they've got Melbourne City, they've got some sort of city in Japan. I'm not sure which one it is. But what they do is those sort of clubs then have a natural affiliation. They're still independent and they're building their own community, but they have a brand association to City. And they've got direct affiliation in terms of if there's a good player, they can pull them over for cheap and then they can sell them. And it becomes lucrative from a financial perspective in terms of transfers, in terms of sponsorships. Exactly like Red Bull and the same sort of business model, which brings me back to Liverpool and Tom Henry. There's also some other sort of discussions where the guy from, the movie Moneyball, the coach called Bean, apparently he was still in charge of Oakland Angels or something like that. And he's currently just resigned to take on a partnership with Tom Henry and the FCG group to partner with some sort of Red Bull initiative to buy another club, to somewhat build some sort of strategy for Liverpool. Again, so these sort of models where we are, like Kevin mentioned again, B teams, C teams, D teams, these sort of things are an extra step for these big clubs to then go into and add extra revenue stream for them in a footballing sense. Because then it becomes easy, right? You can develop players in your own academy. If they're not good enough, you sell them off, which is what Liverpool have been doing. They can then supplement and Chelsea, exactly, which then uses that money to buy better players and keep your club. So either way, you're making money from all angles. Nick, Matthew mentioned in terms of bringing in the smaller clubs, the smaller guys. I think you're perfect, Joe, because not saying Newcastle's a tiny team, but you guys have been up against it for a long time. A long time. And you were venting on that WhatsApp group, so I want you to vent now. I want you to express your concerns here.
I personally just don't think you won't have a fairy tale again. If it had to go through, you won't have a fairy tale. You won't have you won't have a Leicester City. You won't have Burnley finishing 7th or 6th or whatever they did a couple of seasons ago. So I just feel the way the model was sort of made and what we were given to digest and look at. It just didn't sit well with me, and I just don't think that any of the smaller clubs would ever have a chance. I mean, you've got a Leeds United this year that are looking good to finish comfortably in the top 10 if they keep going the way they are. So, at the end of the day, you're going to have teams that are going to come up, they're going to go down, they're going to come up, they're going to go down, and your top 6 is going to say your top 6. And it just frustrates me. I mean, I mentioned it. Leicester's won a league title. Spurs haven't won anything. Liverpool won their first league title last season. I mean,
the repercussions. We're dealing with the repercussions now.
At the end of the day, but at the end of the day, why isn't Leicester? Why isn't Leicester in that top 9? I think it's very skewed and very. And I think you hit the nail on the head, Musa. Like, as soon as they start distributing where and how your votes are being spread around the league, it just leaves a bit of a bitter taste in why we actually love or contradicts why we love football and why we love the Premier League at the end of the day, for me.
No, true.
Because you see this league as like the most competitive league, you know. It's been a league where you can have a weekend where top 4 lose to bottom 4.
7-2, 6-1, 1-1.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the excitement of the Premier League, and to bring such rules into play would eliminate and erode that type of quality that we'd see, the competitiveness that we'd see each and every week from the product. And the fact with those, like the removing of the League Cup and the other cup, it's actually it's so scary how suited it would be for the Champions League playing teams, because their main complaint sometimes in a season is that they play too many games, and they'd rather focus their attentions on playing in the Champions League versus
where the money's at.
Exactly, it's where the money's at, but it's a good challenge for them to actually worry about playing Champions League and worried about playing the League Cup and worry about playing in the league, which all other teams in all other countries have to face as well, you know. And it's just a deal which is way too. It's like giving a carrot to the lower leagues just to say stay alive, stay in the business of football, but we're going to pull the carpet underneath you, and that's a scary thing.
Yeah, and they've disguised it super well. They have said we are helping football, we are helping the FA. They're not. They're taking care of themselves. They're reducing the amount of games. They want to be playing and also one of the interesting things, because it's the Community Shield, it's the Carabao Cup, and it's also then taking 2 teams away, so reducing league fixtures. And all that does is it allows these super sort of intercontinental friendlies to take place prior to the season, which means they can then go play games in the States, they can go play games in Australia, which again is more money, more brand association, working on that equity, more finances, dollars, and all these other sort of things. And then again, restricts the amount of games where they can then focus on the Champions League, where that's where the money's at. You're getting over 100 million pounds if you go further than the last 16 or something ridiculous like that. So like I said, from a Liverpool and a United perspective, I completely get it, because, you know, but from a fan perspective and from a competitive perspective and the spirit of the game, that's you're kind of joking the system. But it brings me down to this next point where we've got United, we've got Newcastle. It's a big game. This is a big test for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Will he manage it? What happens if he loses this game? Nick, you said something last week that you're predicting an upset.
Well, when I saw Maguire play last night, I think we've got a great chance. I think we've got a fantastic chance.
Can I say something?
Absolute donkey at the moment.
How rubbish is the British is reporting on Maguire versus any other player? Yeah, man, like Maguire. Oh, I feel so bad for him. He needs some help. His mind is not right. Damn, him off. Other players in the league. Yeah. Oh no, he's doing too much of this. Sterling is doing too much of this. Rashford is doing too much of this. Martial is doing too much of this. Literally, Maguire has been shielded so much by the English media. That guy punched someone in a foreign land and tried to bribe someone, right? Yeah. We're not saying everything. We're not saying he's guilty or whatever. We're saying that he did something wrong. There is something that he did wrong in Greece. You know, I'm sure the punching one he did do, the bribing, let's say he didn't do, but the punching he did do. And now they say no, his mind's not right and everything. And nah, man, guys, come on, man. Like, guys, just say the guy he's
lost it a little bit at this point in time.
He's a rubbish as a person, you know what I mean? Don't build him.
Was he ever that good? Like, he had a decent season.
Yeah,
hey, 85 millions.
Was he ever
not 80 million pounds good? Not 80 million pounds good. He was, you know, he was
8 million pounds good.
He was great at Leicester, and he was great at for England at the World Cup, and that duped Man United and actually let's say the market, because even Man City thought about it. They said it's too much, but probably Man City like 50, 60. But Man United decided 80. Let's do 80. You know what I mean?
England numbers.
You know, probably top 5 centre backs, and then they're like, 8 million makes sense, which it didn't make sense at the time. You know what I mean? Like, no, man, like
But Leicester, think about it. If Leicester or now they set themselves in a way now where they're actually competing for the league. I can understand it. I wouldn't also pay 85 million for Maguire, but I can understand it in the sense that now Leicester are letting go one of their best players, and they don't have anyone to replace him at the back. They would need to replace him with someone. So I can understand why Man United would pop out 85. And Maguire was, he's decent at the time. And you'd say, okay, he's good. I wouldn't have expected the way he's playing now, to be honest. I wouldn't have expected this.
And you're right. There was something there. I mean, Marcus says, firstly, Newcastle are going to win 1-0. Second thing, he says, look, you guys are forgetting that Guardiola was looking at him at one stage. So he can play with the ball. He's not bad with the ball at his feet.
He's tired.
Even Jose Mourinho won before at United. And these things happen in football, guys. You know, Fernando Torres left Liverpool, best striker in the Premier League, went to Chelsea, £1 million. What happens to Chelsea? He misses an open goal. Man, it happens, man. A fall from grace, you know.
Right, but you know what's interesting though, Sello, is you saying, like people are giving him too much grace. What Maguire has done though is he's literally taken this whole conversation where we meant to talk about Newcastle and United and what the outcome of that sort of result has been. And the whole discussion again has been about fathead. Like, I don't get it.
Listen.
And also, to be fair, if I was running around with a head that size, I'd also be slow.
He's a discussion. But yeah, Nick, as you were saying, the way Maguire was playing yesterday, you guys are going to win. Carry on, yeah?
I think if I'm Callum Wilson watching England play, I would be licking my lips all day. Because I'll just put myself on him because he just dives into challenges. He's late. His first touch is poor. Yeah. I don't know. I don't see it going any other way either than a draw or Newcastle win, especially how he played last week. I'm going for a Newcastle win. I think Saint Maximin signed his new contract. I think he's got a bit extra in the pocket, so I think he's smiling.
6 years. Wow.
Yeah. So now imagine you Harry Maguire and Saint Maximin's running at you. I'd shit myself.
I just can't believe how this whole conversation
You'd be punching people in Greece.
I just can't believe how this conversation is like. It's gotten to a point where you've got a United fan saying Newcastle are going to beat us, and a Newcastle fan being that confident. This is the state of affairs we are in. You did say it. You did say it. Don't. I can go back and record. You said you're going to lose.
Who?
I think he was quoting me.
Oh, was he?
He was quoting.
Man United will lose against Newcastle. Never, man.
Yes, last year.
My perspective is, I think
Nick's confidence in his team, he says that I will never say my team will lose. He will even play Bayern Munich tomorrow, and he will say you'll beat. Are you expecting me to say you'll lose? Come on, man. But
if there was ever, to close off, if there was ever time to play Man United, it would be this week.
Yeah.
And specifically because you've got Harry Maguire at the back, and he's your captain. He's your fearless leader.
So what happens if
completely fearless?
If he doesn't play,
yeah.
Well, you got a better chance then I might say we'll draw then.
Okay, all right. So let's say this. Okay, so Marcus is saying, Sello, you must accept it. You guys are going to lose. Let's say everyone give your prediction for the game quickly, and then follow that. Hypothetically, I want to see what would happen in a state on his job right now if he does lose this game. But let's first give the predictions. Wonga, let's start with you. What do you think the scoreline is going to be?
I think it's going to be a draw. When Newcastle win, say 1-1 or 2-1 to Newcastle. But you mustn't forget that if those guys start firing, they haven't fired yet. So yeah, I don't see it actually happening. Like Marcus Rashford, they got the Greenwood. Yeah, and the Martial's not there. Okay, yeah, 2-1 to Newcastle or 1-1.
Martial okay.
Martial is
Matinho,
very important to the team.
I'm tempted to go for a draw. I think United they don't tend to lose a lot in a row. I don't think they're going to keep a clean sheet. I think Newcastle are going to put some goals in, but I think United are also. I think United's attack is still strong enough to do something. So I think it could be sort of 2-2, and I think it'll probably be Newcastle will take the lead and United will come back and salvage a draw, and Ole will display that like a victory. He's going to walk off smiling like he's just done something great, salvaging a point against Newcastle United. And then United faithful are going to give him a pass, be like, oh, he did that even with Maguire at the back, and he'll be in the job.
Yeah, Musa?
I'm not sure. Eh? Do you guys know if Cavani will be able to play this game?
Coronavirus isolation hasn't ended yet.
See, it's interesting because like if you were to ask me before lockdown this year with COVID and ask me about Manchester United's performances, I was going to say, any team has a chance against beating United. And they went into lockdown and came out of it a very, very strong team. And I'm thinking potentially the same can be said now with the break. I mean, it wouldn't be a Man United that we know if they didn't come back with some type of resolve and some type of character. They have to come back with some type of performance. And although Maguire is messing up, there are a lot of characters around Maguire who should be able to pull a performance, and it should also be a good opportunity for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to actually. He's got a lot of good players. He's got a lot of good players to work with. He should just put them out there and get them to play. Like Mata, he can give you a goal or two if he gets on the field.
That is Musa's player, and we all know why he likes him. Because he wore blue shirt. Underneath that red jersey, he's playing with a blue one. That's why he still likes him.
There's a little something there.
Mata's getting mentioned. Mata should be watching this show because he gets more airtime here than he has on any other platform for like the last 4 years.
A $20 million salary from a Saudi club. So
what is your final score there?
Yeah, I'll give it to Man United. Against everything in me, I think they have to come back with some type of resolve. They have to come back and show that they are a top 6 kind of club. They have players that have won everything in the world, and they're going to be beating themselves up about the way they're coming out. And if they don't respond, then it's going to be a lot of questions about not just the coach but the players themselves. So I think they have to come back and do something. So I'm thinking 2-1 to Man United. I think Newcastle will have a goal or two with the gents there, but Man United should be able to do better than what they did do the previous week.
Yeah.
Man United is winning. Man United is winning, guys. 2-1. Whatever Musa just said, 100% echo his sentiments. But yeah, one of the things that does worry me, as we've alluded to already, is the Maguire factor. Man. I think, man, he's.
But it's cancelled by a penalty you guys will receive.
Yeah, so listen, United start automatically. They start the game with 1 goal. They'll get it within the first 10 minutes from a penalty.
We don't even have the ball. So I know you must talk to Chelsea about that.
That's one of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's tactics.
They've taken our mantle as the Premier gods. But yeah, man, I think the scary part is Maguire, because Maguire has literally he came back from Greece, obviously, and couldn't go straight into training.
Sello's still talking about Maguire.
He's the problem. But that's where a team, you're playing in a team sport, and if the leader of the team isn't up to scratch, isn't right mentally, whatever, physically, whatever's not right with him, you know what I mean? You can say whatever you want to say about him, but his first season at Man United was not really that bad, you know what I mean? But now it's calamitous, you know what I mean? It's just like it's not a Premier League player, it's a League One player. I mean, his first season, Man United be concede the third least goals. You know what I mean? So, which is good.
Sello, we're talking here. We're talking predictions. We want to know what that's going to happen. You're still talking about Maguire. We know the poor man is going through the most. Okay, and Maguire. So Mata, we know two things from this conversation. Mata must come listen to the show because he gets praise, and Maguire must stay away from Goal Lounge.
This is my segment of the show. This is when I can talk about my team. I'm not going to talk a lot about other people's teams because I don't know their teams as well as my team. But listen, okay. But to cut the story short, I feel Man United is going to win 2-1. Some of the players who are starters for United had a good international break, including Pogba, Van der Beek. They had good international weeks, and Bruno had a decent game for Portugal. But also Solskjaer needs to change his tactics. That's the problem. If he doesn't change his tactics,
how would you see him playing though? If he had to change it, how would you want him to set up?
4-3-3, man. 4-3-3. You know what I mean? Pogba and Bruno play 4-3-3 for their national teams, and it helps because you're not taking away Pogba's attacking instincts. You know what I mean? But when you put Pogba as a 2, then you take away his attacking instincts. You know what I mean? So and Bruno has shown him for Portugal that he can play in the 3. You know what I mean? His ball retention is what? It makes a 90% pass completions. You know what I mean? So and it's better if you do that instead of just relying on Bruno as a 10, because then you just leave Pogba too far back. It's not good. You know what I mean? And then Pogba's the guy who's getting the balls from the goalkeeper. Rather play Pogba a little bit ahead. Matic just in the
sitting behind him,
and then let those two guys change. Okay, one attacks, one stays. One attacks, one stays. You know what I mean? That is a better formation for me.
And the reason I asked him was because we're compiling his CV. We're going to send it to the American guys over there. We're going to contact guys. So we'll see what happens, but we'll fax it. So we don't know if it's going to get faxed. Nick, Kevin mentions the Longstaff brothers being clinical for this game, like crucial for United Newcastle, the real United, Newcastle. So how do you see Steve Bruce setting up for this game? Because you are pretty sure in yourself in terms of saying Newcastle are going to win this game. How do they win this game?
To be very honest with you, I am a realist. I don't think Man United are going to roll over. I think they're going to have to put a performance on. I think if Solskjaer maybe loses or draws, and maybe there's a bit of fight, he's got a chance to keep his job. But if they lose in any way close to how they lost against Spurs, he is in big trouble, I think. So I think the players will fight for him. Well, you never know. Actually, maybe he has lost the change room. That was talk.
Yeah, it could be a factor.
In the last couple of weeks is maybe that's a possibility. But I do think if there was ever a time, as I said, to play Man United, it would be this week. I think we don't have as many internationals as they do. So our players will be fresh. Steve Bruce would have had 2 weeks to work with the players. The key term in that sentence is Steve Bruce, and anything is possible with him. He is a dinosaur, and he probably, my luck, will select very defensive team, and we might just nick it. Longstaff brothers are quality Geordie boys.
Has Steve Bruce beaten Man United ever as a coach?
What was that?
Has Steve Bruce beaten Man United ever as a coach?
Probably not. I don't think he's ever beaten a top 6 team. No, I'm joking. But yeah, I don't think the Longstaff brothers will start. I do think Shelvey will be key. And I think Fraser he played for Scotland in the week. He had 2 man of the match performances. I think
you guys had a player playing on international duty.
To Wilson will be
Hey guys, let's respect Newcastle.
Scotland.
That's the international.
Sorry, keep going, Nick.
But I think we'll win this. I think we'll win this 2-1. 2-1 win. Say Maximum with the first. Wilson with the second. And I think Maguire might just get one because we've been giving him too much shit this this podcast. This vlogcast.
Nice.
Consolation goal.
I'm going to give a quick summary because we've spoken quite extensively over this game, only because we have two of our hosts taking part in this sort of fixture. I reckon it's going to be close. I do think United will probably walk away with it in the end, edge it out, just because I don't think United are good enough. Newcastle, I'm getting confused between the two Uniteds. Newcastle are good enough defensively to withstand. Like, it just takes one of the United players to have a good day, and Newcastle in big shit. But yeah, let's hope. Callum Wilson, if you guys have him in your fantasy team, I reckon he's good to go. Good money for, or good value for money rather. But I reckon it'll probably be 2-1 to United. So we're going to move over to the next game. And that's going to be Spurs West Ham. We're going to get Matt involved because he's been quiet. He's been sad because we haven't been speaking about Mourinho and Bale and the possibility of Bale even starting the game. So where are you at? Where's your head at, Matt?
And can I ask a question?
Yeah.
About Ericsson. Ooh, that would be exciting.
Hey.
Oh man, that'd be wicked.
I don't know. That wasn't a question. That was more of a statement. But okay,
yeah.
I'm putting it out there.
Yeah, it would be. He was a player that I was really sad to lose. I think we lost him at his prime as well. He's been a fantastic servant for Spurs. Hasn't really worked for him at Inter. Different style of play. Obviously, just not his environment. If we could get him back, I think, it feels like we're getting the band back together. We're bringing in Bale, bringing Ericsson. I think let's get Van der Vaart off the pundit's chair in the Netherlands, bring him down. Yeah. So, but I think he'd also. We know he works in our system. He knows the players. He played with Kane for a long time, so it would be fantastic. But even this weekend, if there's a possibility of seeing Bale as well, I think that would be. I just want to get a taste of a Kane, Bale, Son front three. Just see how that, because we know Mourinho loves a 4-3-3, and he seems to have been slowly building towards that with Spurs. We didn't quite have the personnel to do it properly. But with bringing in Højbjerg and with the improvement of Sissoko and Ndombele, we've got a midfield that could really do it now. So and West Ham is always a fun game because it seems to be it's because it's a derby. The form book does go out the window, and more so with West Ham than I find with any of the other London sides. We just seem to always have a mad game there, and there's been some incredible Spurs West Ham games over the past few years, and it's West Ham are always a weird side as well because you never quite know which West Ham's going to pitch up. They can be a team that you can look at them and think, how is this team even in the Premier League? And then other times you can look at them and think they should be a top 4 side. So you just don't know what you're going to get. And I know they get amped up for the Spurs games. So I think both sides are going to be ready for it. Tottenham on the back off having destroyed United. I think they're going to want more of it. They're going to want to keep banging in goals. So I want to see it. I do feel like we should edge it. We're at home. We are in good form. We've got some fantastic players. The system seems to be clicking. We really feel like a Mourinho team now. And I think for a long time we still felt like Poch's side with Mourinho just on the bench, and now we really feel like a side in his image, something that he's created. And the players seem to have also picked up on that. We seem to be playing to his system now. Just the interplay that you see between Kane and Son, and Kane doing that Drogba job. How Drogba he was still scoring a lot of goals, but he was also dropping off more, doing a lot more hold-up play, creating chances for those around him. Yeah. He created a lot of chances during his time at Chelsea. Drogba was often creating chances for Robben and Lampard and Cole as they run around him. And I think Kane is starting to do a lot more of that. So I think this is a side that could really, and it's feeling quietly exciting. A lot of the Spurs chatter online is, we look like a really fun side again, and this is another game that will be a bit of a test for us, like the United one was. I think West Ham is always a big test for Spurs. So I'm hopeful that we go in and we show the dominance. We show
because West Ham are still in that top 9 category.
Yeah, they're not
on paper.
and they beat Leicester before the international break. They not just beat Leicester, they whipped Leicester.
Yeah, and that's what West Ham. You just don't know. You could get and which West Ham are we going to get? Are we going to get the West Ham that beat Leicester? Are we going to get the basket case that we've seen in other parts of the season? So I think it'll be a good game. I'm hopeful that Spurs can show their dominance because we are on paper we're a much better side than West Ham. We should be able to dominate that game, put it to bed at home, score some points, and run out comfortably. but you just never know. These derbies are it's always fraught. I think even without the crowds, this is a game that's going to have an edge to it, and I'm confident. I think, prediction wise, I think we'll run out 2-0 or 3-0 winners out of this.
No, whoa, good.
I like that. I love there's a lot of conviction.
Yeah.
Wonga, have you been doing research there? Because you've gone quiet. So I want to know, how do you think this game's going to play out between Spurs and West Ham?
No, to be honest, I was just looking at. I was interested in the Steve Bruce statement, whether he's won or not, and I think he just won one match out of 24. I actually got. They said it is an article from last year. And they're like, Steve Bruce's wretched record against Man United is the worst any manager has against Man United. So, okay, but yeah.
What they're telling us is, if you got money, put on Newcastle to win. That's what it's saying. Right, Spurs West Ham.
Yeah, for Spurs West Ham.
Last year.
Who? For West Ham. But that doesn't matter. Look, West Ham. West Ham. I mean, Arsenal last year were. That's another manager. I don't even count it. Sure. But yeah, Spurs, I think, again, it's difficult to even predict now with this, just no fans, and especially what happened last week. It's like you just spin a wheel and anything can happen. Like, I actually don't know. But the one thing I won't lie, like when I heard Eriksen's coming back, yes, it kind of gave me worries now. Yes, now Spurs can actually really compete. Now they're actually going to be a problem. Yeah, it's going to be a big problem with, answering Musa's question, Spurs. Eriksen was especially with the way they played with Pochettino, they looked a good side. I've never seen Spurs like that in my life. And I think Eriksen had a big part to play in that. But I mean, come the weekend against West Ham, I think they should be favourites. But again, West Ham surprised us 2 weeks ago, thumping Leicester thoroughly. So yeah, I just don't know. I just don't know.
So we've got our first official man sitting on the fence. He's not bold enough to make a prediction. We're going to move over to Mossa.
I would say a draw. Then. Let's say a draw. I can't even see Spurs pulling something.
He's so afraid. What is that, Sello?
A score draw or 0-0?
Oh, no, definitely goals. Let's say 2-2. Now there's definitely goals.
2-2.
Definitely.
All right, Mossa, what are your thoughts?
I definitely think Tottenham have what it takes to take this game. Mourinho is a quality coach. He's, as Matthew says, like it seems like it's a team that's now under his helm, and he's got the players working under his instructions. So I think if Song and Kane come to the party on the day, you've got support from Dembele and the likes everywhere. So I think Tottenham should be able to pull out a few more goals this weekend, and probably giving them a 3-0 win. The nice thing with Mourinho as well is once he closes shop at the back, you can kind of feel confident. Yeah, you can kind of feel confident he's going to go forward. And if we do see Bale stretch his legs, it's exciting to have that type of talent there as well at Tottenham. That's where he made his name. And it'll be dope to see him actually come on the field. So yeah, I'd give it to Tottenham for that.
Cool.
I agree. I think Tottenham will win. I'm giving it to Tottenham 3-1. Son and Bale, I'm also Son and Kane. 2 of the goals will be from that duo. Either one of them scores 2 of them, or whatever, or assists for other people in the team. So if you got fantasy, definitely you need to have Son or Bale. Son or Kane. Why do I keep saying Bale? Son or Kane in your fantasy team. So as I said, 3-1. Eric Dyer's not going to be playing. I think he couldn't play for England. So that's a weak link in defense. I always feel Alderweireld and Sanchez are a better combo than Dyer. Dombele didn't play for France, so he's ready to go. Sissoko didn't play for France to go. And yeah, man, I don't think South Korea had a game, so Son didn't have to go home. So definitely 3-1 to Tottenham.
Cool. Nick?
Yeah, I'm going to go 3-1 as well. think Antonio for West Ham will get a goal. I think he's looking
That
good.
man's a steam train.
I think and I think the front three that I want to see Spurs play eventually will all score. I think you got Son, Kane, and I think Bale will get one just for fun. That'll be good. It will be a good story to talk about next week.
Nice. Yeah, no, I'm I think Mourinho's got everything working there. I think the cogs are slowly starting to synchronize and turn together. Bale just being there, we spoke about this previously, the energy is going to be high, the energy is going to be buzzing. So if he even sits on the bench, I think the guys know there's going to be a certain level of performance at West Ham just aren't going to be able to keep up with. We do know if Antonio has a good day, Antonio is an interesting player. He's obviously, this is going to be outrageous, but Antonio on his day can have the same influence on a game as that a Messi and a Ronaldo can have. He can be unplayable.
Outrageous, completely outrageous.
He can be unplayable. He's unplayable.
Thank you for warning us, sir.
No, I'm saying generally the days when West Ham do come away with the result, it's because Antonio's he's just done things. He's done everything for that West Ham team. He's gone forward. He's gone back. He's a runaway train.
This is another repercussion of Liverpool winning the league.
I guess he can be a Messi or Ronaldo. Yes, 100% he can.
I'm saying his impact. Marcus is also saying I'm out. I'm out. Right, but my point is, if he has a good day, Spurs will have trouble. But I think like you've all touched on it. Mossa said, Mossa's crying. Once Spurs get a goal, they're going to shut up shop. Mourinho's not going to mess around. He's not going to let that shit that happened against Newcastle happen again. So if they get one goal, it's game done. They'll put the game to bed in first half. So 3-0, I think, is a fair scoreline. But on that note, only because I see tears running down his face, I want to see where he goes with this. The Chelsea-Southampton game. Where's your head at, Mossa?
My head at that is in a very good place. I think Chelsea, the boys are looking good when they do come out for international breaks. I saw a little bit of Havertz over the week. It's perfect to have him as centre attacking midfielder. He unlocks a lot of players around him, gives him he creates a lot of sitters in that 18-yard area, which is brilliant to see. Seeing the likes of Mount and other players playing as well in the international week really does give me comfort to say, we can get a result. The big concern for me is Ings. Oof. That man, I don't know, it seems like he has a goal in him every game he plays at this point in time, and he can pull a rabbit out of a hat at any point. It's if you were to ask me, like in terms of the English strikers at this point in time, he's actually more of a threat than Harry Kane in the current form. Yeah, in my view. And that's something that the team has to think about. We do have a couple of very good players at the back. Hopefully Mendy is fit and ready to also take on that goalkeeper position. But I can't see us literally having a clean sheet. I feel like Ings is just going to find a goal somehow in some way. So I do think we have the firepower going forward. We still have to work on the combinations going forward, but seeing how the guys did stretch themselves this past week, I think will be good. So I'm seeing a 3-1 from Chelsea this weekend.
That's a good score.
No, I don't think he is fit because he actually had to go home, right? For the second game. For the second game, yesterday's game for England. So I think we fine though. Like in that position, he did create a couple of assists 2 weeks ago, but I think Alonso is also a very good replacement. It's not going to be the most impactful thing.
I think actually that you might play Azpilicueta left back if Chilwell's not fit, because you remember against West Brom. At halftime, he brought on Azpilicueta for Alonso, and
Alonso.
I think maybe he doesn't trust them. I don't know, but
and you've got James. James also looks like the part on the right back. So the good options that we have there, and Chilwell he did slot into the team very well. And if the coach is to change anything, I think he'd be happy with changing it by an injury versus him making the decision of actually pulling the lad off the field. So yeah, we'll see how it does pan out. I'm not too sure if Aspilicueta will start on the left because he also has done well like on the right for Chelsea. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah,
I have to say this because Kevin is throwing in the comments on the side. Mason Mount. He says that Mason Mount is Frank Lampard's son. Like he always starts, but I told him that the last game, the one that you guys won 4-0, if Mount doesn't, he even said that if Mount doesn't start, you guys will win like convincingly, and you won 4-0. Mount didn't touch the field, but then. Do you think that he will get a game, or do you think that he will be hit again? Because obviously the combination of Havertz, Werner, Hudson-Odoi, and Abraham worked well in the last game.
Yeah, from my side, I see where the comparison with Lampard and him does come into play. Like it seems like he's having like a soft spot in Lampard's heart because the style of play is very similar. He's one of those attacking midfielders that can get a lot of goals from distance. He can strike the ball very, very well. He does create combination play in the final third, and yeah, man, he's the mold of a Lampard type of player. It's just whether he can come on and create a lot. I'd keep him on. I'd give him a chance to actually play, but there are a lot of good players around him as well. I mean, like Pulisic, Ziyech, which we still haven't seen at Chelsea. There's a couple of options which are gonna literally ask of Mount to pull up his socks and push them to the limit, which is a good place for a 22-year-old to be. He'd rather be there in the squad and not really on the fringe. He's in the squad. He's got a couple of good performances under his belt, and he's got a couple of goals under his belt as well. So I'd love to see him play. He's got the energy that I like to see in the Chelsea squad, to be honest.
Cool. Matinho, what do you think is going to happen here?
I think Chelsea will win it. I think they've got the quality. They seem to also be clicking. They seem to have found their groove. And against sides like Southampton, they seem confident enough to pull it off. We've seen them kind of feel a bit disjointed against the bigger sides. They struggled against Liverpool. They struggled against us in the cup. But it seems when they come up against a side that where they feel like they're not gonna. Where they feel like they should win, they do. And I think that's against Southampton, we'll see them feeling confident, playing well. I do expect there's goals in it. I agree with Mossa. I think Ings is a dangerous player. I think he's got goals in him and he won't need a lot of chances. That's the thing as well. Give him one or two sides of goal, he's going to get one. So I think I still think it'll be fairly convincing. I think it'll be 3-1 or something like that. But I think Chelsea will run away with it. And it's for me, the next big thing is to see Chelsea carry this form into a big game, into a side that's really going to stretch them. But I expect them to come out of this team as winners. As much as Southampton, they're not playing bad. Southampton are a good side as well. They got some solid players, but I just think that Chelsea will want to win this, and Chelsea are at home as well. So they, it's you expect Southampton to also be set up slightly defensively. I don't think they're going to go all guns blazing, which is the kind of game that Chelsea actually kind of thrive with.
And also kind of suits to Mossa's worry. It suits Danny Ings a little bit. Just playing off the shoulder of the defenders, let them have the possession, have a little bit of a high line and make those runs in behind. That's to his game, or suits his game to the T. Wonga.
Yeah, look, I think...
You guys thought I was going to follow us up for something. I was waiting for him to jump in. Like, when someone finishes, you guys can just run away. I don't have to say, like, Sello every time. So, after Wonga, Sello must give, then, Nick must go. Okay, go, Wonga.
Yeah, now I'm
You're the
saying,
conductor, Claude.
I don't think Chelsea are going to score less than 3. I see them getting the goals in there. Southampton, the danger I do see, like Claudio just said there again, is Danny Ings running behind, and he is a very lethal striker. But I don't think it's going to be that much of a difficult one for Chelsea. But if they bring another performance lackluster like they did the game before, then they can see a lot of trouble. Southampton can punish them for any mistakes they make. but yeah, I do see them. I do them same again. And my comment on Mason Mount, I think if you look at the player, definitely has a lot of potential. There's no ways I think Lampard is gonna just. Of course, maybe now you say, okay, no, it's not really take him off. Cool. He's still got. I mean, he's still young. He's got a lot of years ahead in his career. He's gonna get a lot of opportunities to play. I think, in the Champions League, they still got the other cups. He's got a lot of time. So
what happens? What happens when, say, all their signings and the squad is fully fit? Does he get into the first 11?
No.
No, he doesn't.
Tough. They've spent too much to not play these players.
What Cameron is saying, play Mount in a pivot with Kante, because at least then it gives Mount is the creative force, and then Kante is obviously the guy who will clean up. And obviously, Musa has been crying about Jorginho and Kante playing together. It doesn't work. You know what I mean? He doesn't want to see that two work together.
Yeah, that doesn't.
Yeah,
but I think
if
you look at Lampard, the way Lampard's building the team, he said it before, is that, and he keeps on saying it, is that if anyone asks him, what are you going to do with this player, that player, wada, he had a bad game, all he says is that he structured the team in a way that there's always competition in the team. So that, the other players are not relaxed. Yeah, you see it sharp, you play, but then you got a kid like Mason Mount who wants to show himself now. So you
also scores goals for England now as well. So that's an extra thing. He's not just a squad player, and that's going to be the difficult thing for Lampard, is trying to manage all of this. Is that this kid now thinks it's the same with what happened with Liverpool and Ryan Brewster, seeing the likes of Sancho and other guys get their chances. The Oak had an injury. He knew he wasn't going to get into Liverpool's front three, so he decided, well, he's not going to stick around. Even though if he had stayed another season with Liverpool, playing in the first team actually day in, day out, he probably would have benefited. And Nick, from your perspective of being a coach, like when you've got a player who's that hungry and he sees his mates doing that well, I mean, we all know it. We saw like Mossa, when you got promoted ahead of me in certain things, you're itching, you want to do more, you want to go more. And then if you don't get that chance, you start looking elsewhere. And that's what happened with Ryan Brewster. At some point, if Mason Mount doesn't get a look in, when the guy is coming on from England or coming on for England and scoring goals, and then he's going, but wait a minute, I want to be playing for England. The Euros are around the corner and I'm not getting game time. So that's also something for Frank Lampard to be managing. So, Nick, how do you go about doing something like that?
It is a bit of a tricky situation. I mean, Frank's got to deliver results. And, at the end of the day, he's got to make sure that he puts his best 11 out every week, or best 14 that he can play. Whether or not Mount is good enough, I think he is good enough. But I think at a team like Chelsea, playing on so many fronts, you might find that he's not a starter every week. And I think the best managers utilize their squads the best. And if they go far in any tournaments this season, Chelsea, he'll need to utilize every player. And he will play his role. Injuries will come. If he gets his chance, he might take it. And the player who's out might have to fight even harder to get back in. The Mount one is a little bit of a... I see a lot of people on Twitter actually saying that Mount is Southgate's love child as well. Because but the boys got something. I think Southgate's got an issue with maybe playing players that maybe don't really deserve call-ups. He is maybe tinkering with it at the minute, but it is difficult for a coach like Lampard, especially with all the talent that he's got at his disposal. Managing the expectations is what, I mean, you guys have been in change rooms where the coach has told you one thing, and whether or not it's true or not, he's got to manage your expectations. And if you're not happy, I think Frank will be the first one to open the door and say, "Cheers, mate." If you're not gonna join the train, the train's going in one direction. You got to jump off. I think at his age, I think he's young enough to play a bit less now, and be a very successful Chelsea legend in future.
But the issue though is Jadon Sancho and the lad Foden from Man City. These guys are giving all these managers headaches. That's actually what they're doing, because they're going out there, they're getting their starters, and all the other guys are looking over, going, "But wait a minute, that could be me. That could be."
And I mean, I think every specific situation is its own situation, and it has its own dynamics and circumstances. So it is difficult not to compare. However, I back the coach, and if the coach the coach is in a position to make the decisions. And at the end of the day, if the player's not happy, pack your bags and go. And I've watched a few interviews with him. I don't think he's that type of lad. And I think Frank is the type of manager to manage an expectation or the expectations that he may have.
Yes.
So I think with the Brewster one, is Brewster not on loan to Sheffield United?
No, it's sold. There was a buyback.
Yeah.
So he was sold. Oh,
yeah.
Really? Okay. Yeah. So I mean, ultimately the player has to be happy, and in a club setup, in the squad setup, you don't want a player that's not happy, because ultimately that player can become a bad apple. And Chelsea's a team that I would like to think are challenging for the title, or a team that want to challenge in the Champions League. So I would like to think that a young manager like Lampard, who's been part of squads like that, will manage that. And he's been that young player himself.
Yeah, exactly.
So Wonga,
and that's why I think
back,
it's good to actually see Loftus-Cheek sent out on loan as well to Fulham, because you don't want to stifle a player of that caliber. It might not be working at this point in time for them at Chelsea because of the other players around them, but there's a point in time where these boys are going to come back and develop into fully fledged professional footballers at their prime, and that's when they probably can reap the best of their abilities.
Not true.
Yeah. Going back on the Chelsea game, I think I don't think it's going to be as easy for Chelsea, because I think Southampton's fixed their sort of defensive problems. They started poorly and they've got 2 clean sheets recently. And I think Ings has a goal in him. I don't think it will be a scrappy game. I think Chelsea will ease to a 2-1 victory. And when I say ease, I think Southampton might get a consolation. I think Abraham was itching for a goal. I think he was a little bit pissed off that he didn't get that penalty. So I think he will be there and thereabouts. And I think Werner has to score, if anything, for my fantasy team.
Is he still there? Top of the pops.
You've been hanging on to that. You've been hanging on.
Yeah, so I'm going a 2-1 win. 2-1 I think they'll ease to it, but it will be a close scoreline.
Wonga, what is your final score? You didn't say anything. For Chelsea, Southampton.
I said Chelsea. Yeah, okay, I didn't give final score. I'd say 3-0.
3-0. Nice. He gave a number and he stuck with it. It was in and it's out. He thought about it. Okay, Sello.
I'd say 3-1 to Chelsea.
3-1 to Chelsea. All right. Yeah. No, I think it'll be a 2-1. I don't think it's going to be that many goals. I think it'll be a lot tighter than what we think. I do think under the Southampton's manager, they're quite well organized. They've got a goal threat, like Moss was saying, in a Danny Ings. Chelsea need to start gelling, because when they start playing, the thing is, Marcus said, I thought this was more outrageous, by the way. Marcus said Chelsea to win the league. They've won the league. I think the problem that Lampard has, and you guys have been talking about it, you've been talking about this problem, is that Lampard's got headaches. He's got a lot of new players coming in. He's got good players. He's not sure what his best 11 is. A side like Everton have a better chance of winning the league, largely because Ancelotti is well experienced. He doesn't have as many headaches. He knows who his best team is, and he can work with that. And in the scenario versus Chelsea and Southampton, the Southampton manager know who his best 11 is. And so it's all about whether or not, Lampard gets it right on the weekend. If he gets it right, then comfortable 2-1 win. If not, then it's possible draw 2-2. The next one, Man City, Arsenal. Wonga's yawning. We need to catch him before he goes to sleep. This is what happens. So Wonga, enlighten us. What's the situation in the Arsenal camp? Wenger came out talking really positive things, saying Arteta's the right man for the job. He can win a title. And he's also surprised about how they're backing him as manager in terms of financial resources and signings. So what's the camp looking like for this game against Man City?
Yeah, I looked at it and I also even before when Arteta came, when he was named, I said it before, when he was named the coach, it was a good decision. Watching Arsenal's games as well, I do think that Arteta can win us something. Well, he's already won, but that doesn't really count. But he can win us a cup that counts in the future. He said his words, according to Willian, were Champions League in 3 years. I've heard that 3-year thing many times. I don't know if that can happen, but I do know that Arteta can win us something. And yeah, I mean, it's also nice to see that Wenger, I mean, it's always love for the club. I mean, if you've been there for that long, of course you're going to love the club like that. But looking at Man City, Arsenal, Man City also, they're coming off a bad run of games. I think they haven't won the last 3 games.
It's a difficult match for them, yeah.
Yeah, it's just not going to be an easy one for them. Arsenal haven't beaten them, I think, for 3 years in the league now. This is the last 6. De Bruyne has feasted on them, so if he doesn't play, I think that'll be good news for us. The only thing now they're seeing now, I think whether Partey plays or not, I don't think is going to be a problem for me. I think, I mean, he's just got into the camp. He hasn't trained. I think he only trained, was it today or yesterday? They said, but it was this week, his first training session.
Yesterday.
Yeah, I think today, then it was today that he got his first training session in. I'm not too worried if he doesn't play or not. I think if I look at Arsenal and the other games they played, I mean, we played Liverpool, we managed not to get thrashed, you know. I mean, last week, Liverpool got 7, Man United got, Liverpool got 7, Man United got 5, 6, or 6. Leicester got 7. Leicester got 5, I think, the week before that. And I just look at the way Arsenal played. Yes, we lost the game we played against Liverpool. We lost. But I think it didn't look like we're going to lose, a big score. I mean, given the previous seasons as well. And every time we've won our games as well, I think we look pretty solid at the back. And I think that's all I'm really enjoying at the moment. We're coming against Man City. We know they're a dangerous team. If we lose, I promise you, I don't think I'll be that disappointed. It's something probably everyone would expect. But I do think we can get a result out of the game, whether it be a draw or a win. To give a prediction, I do see goals. I think I would say, I'm not going to say my team will lose, but I say 2-2, a 2-2 draw.
You just get to say your team is gonna lose. It's fine.
Look, to be honest with you,
even the way he says it, there's no conviction when he says it's like 2-2.
Just so I can't say they lose.
On the day, look, for me, I'm just going to be realistic and consider the fact that, again, I know I've always named this player, but Xhaka for me is very, you just don't know what you're going to get from him. And David Luiz as well. You just don't know.
I don't know. I feel like you and Sello should start a group where you guys just talk about Xhaka and Maguire, and they have like memes about them all day. But yeah, sorry, keep going about Xhaka. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I mean, like he played against Switzerland. Apparently, I never saw the game, but apparently he had a good game
against Germany.
For his team, he had a good game against Germany. But then again, I just said, it's possible, you know. Bentner had good games. Bentner had amazing games. Walcott had very good games. I think he scored a goal against Barcelona, running from his own box. But then you just didn't see that every game. And that's the problem with me and Xhaka. I just don't see that every game. Next game, he can just kick someone, get a red card, get off. David Luiz as well in the back. He's the games when you watch him. I think when the last time he played against Man City in the FA Cup, David Luiz played very well. You could see he wanted to win, fighting, but I just don't think there's that ambition to do that every game.
So Nick, between David Luiz and Jamal Lascelles, who's more of a lucky packet?
Jeez.
That's
a tough one. I think Jamal Lascelles of 2 seasons ago when he was fighting for an England call-up, I think maybe take him, but I think Luiz is a definite lucky packet. That guy, you don't know what you're going to get.
I like how you had to think about that. That was a harder question than actually asking what the score prediction is.
When he's good, he's really good. But when he's bad, he's really bad.
Exactly. And a penalty is what he's going to give when he's bad. It's not going to be like a foul, or it's going to give a penalty when he's bad. It's going to give it, you know, just by pulling someone where it's not needed. So I'll stick by my guns and say 2-2. But I do think Arsenal, again, I do think Arsenal can get a result out of it. And I don't see them getting thrashed. I don't see Arsenal getting thrashed. No.
I think City, for me, for me, I think this is probably the worst game that City could have after dropping points and like off a bad run. Because I think they Arsenal are like a reinvigorated side with Arteta there. I think Partey will definitely start. I don't see him not starting. He played a full game I think he played for Ghana. He's going to slot straight in. They're not going to spend 40 mil and then ease him in. They need that steel in the midfield. I think he'll start, and I think he'll give your De Bruyne's, your Rodri's, your Foden's a run for their money. And I think it's going to be a draw. I think it's going to be a 1-1. I don't see. I think City needed to play Sheffield United, Newcastle, or West Ham, and they needed to batter them in the next game. I think this is the last sort of test that they needed, because if there's anyone who knows what City's going to do, it's Arteta. And we all know why. So I think Arsenal, Wonga, you maybe need to be a bit more confident. I think if anything, you might even get a win. But I think a draw is probably written all over it. And I think City might fall into a little bit of a rut that they're going to have to pull themselves out of.
That's interesting.
I agree with Nick. So let me just say it's 1-1, what Nick said, 1-1. Completely agree with what he says. Aguero is not fit yet. I didn't see Jesus playing international duty, so I don't know if he'll be ready for the game as well. And I think they're not that menacing yet, man. So I think 1-1 definitely. Aubameyang could definitely get a goal. He hasn't scored in the last 2 games, I think it is. So I think 1-1 definitely. And Partey will have to start, man. Like, you have to start him.
If I look at even what if you look at the other games you played, I was watching the highlights. It's like they said, no, don't touch De Bruyne. Leave him. Let him go. Let him shoot. Let him get his goal. That's exactly what it looked like. He was running through the midfield. Xhaka was playing. He was running through the midfield as if there was nothing there. He got his shots on. Yeah. So I think if you play Partey, you could probably get a different result. But again, as for me, it's not the game. I'm not worried about these games. It's the smaller teams like last year that were.
But I think to Sello's point, if we take Thiago as an example for Liverpool, Thiago came straight into the team, and when the players of such a quality or such a level, in terms of quality, they can just slot in immediately because they understand the game really well. Partey, if you're coming into the situation where you do have a City versus an Arsenal, we know, to what Nick said, exactly, we know Arteta knows the ins and outs of Pep Guardiola, and what we've seen so far from Arteta is he's more adaptable. And I don't know if it's Pep Guardiola not being adaptable, but rather being stubborn. But we know Arteta knows how to shut this team down, and we know that Man City are firing on all cylinders. And what's quite interesting is what you guys have all said so far is the possibility on the cards. That means then out of 4 games, I think it would be, or 5 games, fourth game for Man City, that they would have only won 1 game, and they would already be behind. I think it would be at least like a good 7 points off the start of the season. And it puts Pep Guardiola under a lot of pressure. Matthew, in terms of prediction, what do you think is going to happen here?
I think this game's got a lot. It's got some interesting storylines. The student against the master. Also, City, who are so dominant, who are sort of in decline, up against Arsenal, who are kind of resurgent. And I think Arsenal are going to win it. To be honest, I'm gonna be brave for the Arsenal fans. I know it's hard for them after so many years of having to watch Arsenal. I think Arsenal. It's in much the same way. You think about the Spurs United game where it was a very similar story arc. Spurs were on ascendancy, United having a period of struggle, and then it all came to. I don't think it's going to be 6-1. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's going to come together for Arsenal. I think on their day, Arsenal are looking really dangerous at the moment, and this is the kind of game, to Nick's point, I don't think Guardiola would have wanted to play Arsenal now. I think this is not needed, and I think Arsenal are going to take advantage of that. Arteta knows what he's doing. I think it could be 2-3-1 to Arsenal, and I think it's going to be a fantastic game. I think it's going to be full on. There's going to be a lot going on, and I think Arsenal are going to come away winners. I want to say it.
You said it. The Spurs man is back from British. Wow, it's going to snow. It's going to snow out.
Man, I echo the same sentiments because it feels like City are in a little bit of a rut at this point in time, and they haven't really come up with a new way of approaching themselves or approaching the games that they enter into. So with Arteta knowing exactly what's happening at City, with Pep, potentially he may come up with a new solution of how to approach this game, but I don't see that coming to full fruition, because the players that are at Man City now, they're all brilliant players, but they're not firing at full cylinders. They're not bringing out their best performances at this point in time, and it's quite interesting, because if we're looking at the season, at the beginning of the season, I would have expected Man City to have already gathered 12 points at this point in time, and be starting to run away and pull away from the rest of the league. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And it hasn't panned out for them that way. It's been a sluggish, pedantic type of approach from Man City. So I think, and whereas Arsenal has been looking exciting, as Wanga mentions, like they are a very good team. So I think, yeah, it's equally poised, and I'll go for a 2-2. I'm actually quite scared if Arsenal score early. I'd actually be scared and pull off David Luiz from the field, because he could cost you. It cost you. In those type of games, it seems like he's like set up to either win the game for you or cost you.
It's either he's the best defender in the world in a game like that, or he's
he either for you or against you.
There's no in between the guy.
You know what David Luiz hasn't done, and I don't think he's done this for Arsenal yet. He hasn't scored a free kick yet.
Yeah,
but
he's got that. He's got that in his locker.
Don't lie him though. Yeah. Lacazette and Aubameyang want to be the free takers. So
there's also that. No, it's Pepe. If Pepe's on the field, he's always the one taking them. Remember?
Oh, Pepe as well. Pepe also has.
He takes the corners. He takes everything when he's on. And now I think that Torreira was the one also taking them, but he's gone.
I'll also take everything if you paid 72 million for me.
Yeah. Why isn't Maguire taking anything that
I don't know, we're gonna have to change Prematch Muti. We're gonna have to change the title of the show to the Maguire show. That's what we're gonna call it. Maguire and Mata and Shaka. Mata, Shaka, and Maguire. That's it. I just want to say something. You know, it's if we're looking at Firmino, yes. One thing I want to point out though is you've got two teams here in Arsenal and a City. One is seemingly going on the incline, the other one's on the decline. Losing players like Kompany, losing your David Silva, even though your fans and your players and everyone else thought, we could just get rid of these guys because, City have so much depth. It just shows you the impact that a player can have on your squad with that experience and the know-how in terms of changing or instilling a sort of culture within a club. And they've lost that in both those players, and this is also one of the reasons why they're struggling. But if you're looking what an Arsenal's doing, yeah, I think this is the first. I would think about it. It's 4 weeks in, and this is the first time the whole panel is saying that Arsenal's going to get a result here, which is this is a bit ridiculous. So again, if you guys,
no, we agree. I don't think anyone the City's going to win.
Yeah. So I'm saying if you guys are betting, if you're going to bet, to go check those odds and put it on, because I think if you're looking at football and you're looking at what's going to happen, what happens to Guardiola though if he doesn't get this result?
More pressure, man. More pressure, definitely.
Yeah, I think they start pressurizing him, man.
And then it's Champions League coming up. If he loses the group stage game, more pressure. Man, Pochettino's chilling somewhere, waiting for either the Man United or Man City to call him up. He's just chilling, so that could also happen.
Yeah, do you guys think that's a likelihood? We halfway through, we see he's reached his limit finally. He's been at this club longer than what he has in most clubs. He reaches his limit, and Pochettino comes in, and is he the man to step into the shoes of this City job?
I personally think Guardiola will get it right. I don't see this run. I don't think it's going to be for too long. I think he needs Aguero back. I think that would be like another signing. I think they will. I think they will recover. I think just right now.
Wanga's out because he's going off to Aguero. He's looking for Aguero. I don't know what he's doing.
Oh, it's
Sorry,
sorry.
Nick.
You don't put his laptop charger on before the show.
I'm sorry, keep going, Nick. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he'll get it right. I don't see them sacking him. I think when they click, they click. I personally think it's just a tough game to I can't take this guy seriously.
I don't know what's wrong with this look, honestly.
Are you good, one guy? You sharp?
Hey, my butcher's dying, bro. It's like it's not a switch off. Yeah.
Yeah. I personally think it's not the right game to bounce back. We might be completely wrong, and they might just turn it on, and they, when they can, I mean, they can beat Arsenal 3-4-0 if they want to. I listened to something quite interesting today with Ian Wright, and he was speaking about Kevin De Bruyne and whether or not he looks tired and a little bit frustrated. And it was quite interesting to hear their views. And he doesn't have Aguero up top. Well, he hasn't had him for a while. He doesn't have Silva next to him. He doesn't have company at the back. And, you kind of take away that spine. And he's always had these people to turn to. Now he's the main man. And he's not in his 30s or his mid 30s or anything where he's like the one taking charge. He's got kids around him, and he's got to kind of take the bull by the horns. And the interesting question is he frustrated? Is he wanting to move on?
You look tired.
Sometimes his body language doesn't look right, man.
Yeah.
His body language is like
sometimes I heard him say, I can't remember what they asked him this about. Was it him getting knocked out the Champions League or something?
Champions League. Yeah.
Yeah, and he said same thing, different year.
Every season. No change, yeah?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. And there's comments lately he's been making. Now, just to support.
Alarm bells.
I think if there's anyone to get it right, I think we can never question Guardiola and what he's done. So I don't think the board will make a rash decision. I think they'll give him a chance to fix it. But I think if it lasts too long, I think we're in game week 4. I think let's give him a bit of time. But as I said, I don't think it's a great game. But it's not a great game to come back or for 1-1 draw against a newly promoted team after an international break where he hasn't even had the players to work with. I think Arteta's licking his lips. Pochettino, I think if anyone's eyeing Pochettino, I think it should be Man United. I think Solskjaer is maybe out of his depth, and maybe that's someone who can go and fix it. Maybe he'll transfer list Maguire there for you.
I think Pochettino being a former defender can actually help Maguire. So
that's actually what Sello's saying. Sello's saying Maguire's struggling because Solskjaer is a striker. That's what's going on here. Sorry,
those things do happen.
That's a tricky thing for like some of these coaches, like Lampard's and the likes, because under Pep, under Ancelotti, under Klopp, we've seen good players get better. We've seen them like improve. They bring out their best games, whereas coaches like Lampard and Ole Gunnar are gonna have to. It's something they have to consider at the back of their heads, like which products are they actually delivering and actually improving, because it might be all good and well having the purse and having the money to actually get the players that you want, but you have to actually come out at the end of the season improving a couple of those names to put your stamp of a coach in that place.
Yep. So I think it's safe to say we're all saying City are going to struggle to get anything out of this. Arsenal, Wonga, we're all backing your side. If it doesn't, probably the reason why it's not going to happen. But let's move on before this thing becomes a Lord of the Rings sort of series. We're going to talk about the last game. It's the Merseyside derby. Why this is bigger than normal is because it is the current league leaders versus the current league champions, and it's all happening in Merseyside. Forget Manchester. There's nothing good coming out of Manchester anymore. It's all Liverpool. It's going to the home. This is where it's at. So what's going on here, guys? What are we thinking about this? Ancelotti, Klopp. We know Ancelotti has a good record against Klopp with the other sides he's taken charge of in the Champions League. The games that Klopp lost was against Ancelotti. So he knows how to set up. He knows Liverpool have had the problem that you guys mentioned in terms of the international break after getting thumped 7-2. What are you guys thinking about this?
I think I'll start. I think it's a draw.
Callison.
I think it's a draw. Okay, cool. Maybe two crucial players for Everton had to fly from the other side of the world. Richarlison and James, they played for their teams in World Cup qualifiers. But, Calvert-Lewin only played the 2 games for England, and he scored his debut goal. So he's firing, and I think they could definitely cause some problems. I think with the speed of Richarlison, if you play the high line, especially again, Richarlison can definitely take advantage. The one thing that would be in Liverpool's favor, I'm just saying from a Everton standpoint, is Luca Dean went off with an injury for France yesterday, and he had a great game for France. So and he's a creator for Everton. So if he doesn't start and he's injured, then it will be obviously to Liverpool's benefit. But I think obviously Mane coming back, Thiago coming back, that's also the two star players coming back, and Liverpool want to obviously get back after shipping 7 goals, against a team that had 11 players that almost got relegated, So Liverpool also want to prove themselves, but I think Ancelotti, man, this is his match. This is the match for them. This is their final. Everton don't beat Liverpool. They haven't beaten Liverpool in quite a long time, and I think they want to prove a point. And I think because they want to prove a point, I'm going to give it a draw.
You proving a point is a draw. I would have thought like maybe an Everton win, but fair enough. Nick?
Because Mane and Thiago are back. If Mane and Thiago were not there, or if Mane was not there, then Everton wins. But
depends if they play. They might not play. Yeah.
Mane is the second most important player for Liverpool after Van Dijk.
I think he's one of the most important.
I think it's probably number 1 even.
Yeah, I think
number 1.
Yeah. I think
Him and Van Dijk are the 2 most important. Yeah.
I think what I said about City and them having probably the worst sort of game to play, I think Everton's probably finding the worst team to play because the champions lost 7-2 last week. That's what we all have to let sink in. And
you don't enjoy lying, boy.
Yeah, and Klopp, and I'd like to think he is intelligent enough to rectify things we spoke about last week. The high line was suicidal. And I would like to think that he has got some sort of a backup plan if it isn't working, and or a counter strategy to fix if they are pressing in a certain area of the field, how they drop off and how they deal with the transitions, because Everton's transitions are very quick, as were Villa, and if they are not on their game, they can get hurt, especially if they played like they did 2 weeks ago. So I still think Everton have nothing to lose. I mean, they're top of the log. They're playing the champions. They're playing good football. I think they're going to go all out. And I think for that very reason, I think they will be exposed because they're not as strong defensively, man for man, as a Liverpool. And I think if you have your Manes, your Salahs, your Firminos, your Thiagos playing, I think they're good enough to break the Everton lockdown. As good as an Ancelotti is. Ancelotti might swing this completely and go ultra defensive, ultra Italian, and try and nick it on the counter with the high line that they notoriously play Liverpool.
He's done that in the past, yeah.
Yeah, so for his Napoli sides, etc. So I do think this could. There's so many variables here, depending on how they set up, depending on how Klopp approaches the game, depending on how Ancelotti approaches the game. Is a draw a victory for them? Possibly is. Maybe
for Everton, definitely. I think if they take a point,
maybe he will say, "Listen, come at us, try break us down." I just think, if I'm an Everton fan, I've got nothing to lose. It's the 4th game of the season, 5th game of the season. Let's go for it. Let's go and see if we can score a couple like Villa did. I just don't see Liverpool losing this game. I just think they're going to have to. have to come back.
Bounce back.
And
they're going to
I
have
think,
to respond.
I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think there'll be a couple of goals, maybe a 2-1 victory. I think Liverpool aren't as strong as they used to be defensively. I think he's fixed something that didn't need to be fixed. I think, Matt, you spoke about that last week. And I think they will concede, but I do think they have enough going forward to score. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Liverpool.
Before the next person goes, just thinking like you've got two of the clumsiest goalkeepers in the Premier League playing this weekend. Pickford versus Adrian.
Anything can happen, boy.
That's a good point.
Is Adrian
Yeah, that's
playing?
valid.
Yeah, because Alisson is out for 6 weeks.
Oh.
Yeah, no, that's actually that's a huge. Actually, in fact, that's a huge factor, and we know when we used to play Mossa, like if you had someone in goal at the back who wasn't, like if the team doubted immediately, like happened previous week, as soon as that mistake comes in early and you suffer a goal, the whole morale of the team takes a huge knock. It just feels like it's so much harder to get back. And that's a valid point there. We know Pickford's a flipping loose cannon. We know Adrian is a third, fourth choice keeper at best. Maybe he should be a goalkeeper coach. I'm not sure. Maybe Nick will see him one day on a UEFA course or something. But Mossa, I think, is Nick frozen? I don't know what's going on there. Mossa, what do you think is going to happen this game?
He's shook, I think, where he is. For me, I think this is the game of the weekend. In my view, it's an epic game. It is gonna. I think both coaches will like to express themselves fully. I don't see the reason why Everton would want to get to Liverpool and change too much. It seems like they're on the right type of momentum and they have some type of flow. So I think they're going to go out attacking. They've got Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin also firing on all cylinders, which is good. James Rodriguez is connecting them up quite nicely as well. Pickford has been there for the past couple of weeks. He is error prone, but he has been there, so I don't think it will affect the Everton team that much. They won't be looking over their shoulders as much as the Liverpool team, which is now facing the challenge of having a new goalkeeper in the goals. Mane, if he's back, he'll always be a threat. He's one of those players where you put him on the field and he's going to turn defenders. He's going to attack defenders directly. He's going to be in their faces and giving them something to think about the whole game. So it'll be good to have him there. Thiago Alcantara, also quality player. This game really does highlight how much quality is in the English Premier League. Everton, if you look at it from the coaching staff the whole way onto the players, it's quality. The European players that could actually play in the highest level. If you look at Liverpool, it's also the same. You've got a coach which is of the highest top shelf coach. You've got top shelf players there. All that I think will happen is that both coaches will want to express themselves fully. I don't think anybody's going to go out there hoping to park the bus. The worst case scenario would be if Everton were to come out and play their expressive football and then get punished by Liverpool. They take it on their shoulder and understand that those are the league champions that they did come up against, and it would be a good test to give them a barometer of where they should improve to also compete for the league, because they have enough quality in their cabinet to actually compete this season, which is nice for them. I don't think they'll be coming into this game thinking, let's potentially be a little bit more defensive. Let's potentially consider taking them on the break and the likes. I think they're going to come out on full attack this weekend. So it's going to be exciting. I think there'll be a couple of goals. Both managers are of the top draw. All the players on the field are going to be of the top draw. Probably the weakest link would be Liverpool's goalkeeper, if you ask me. And that's potentially where James, if you give him 30 yards, he can do something. 25 yards, he can look for something to test the keeper, which is going to be exciting to see, So
I like that prediction. I like that. He's definitely going to be taking shots from range. I mean, if I was Ancelotti, I'd tell him, have a go. So don't be surprised if we see something like that happen. Yeah,
he's got a top draw left foot, we were all a bit worried, and we haven't seen it in a while, at Real Madrid. So to see it coming out to fruition, the passes he's been picking, the distribution he's got, and he's been attacking goals. So it's nice. It's going to be set up very, very nicely this weekend. I still do think Liverpool will have to respond. They aren't champions by luck. They are champions because they've been in situations where they've had to respond, and they've done it very convincingly over the past season. So I think Liverpool will probably pip it maybe 3-2 in this game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matinho, what's up?
So it's for me, the interesting angle to this game is I mean, the Merseyside derby is always huge. It always means so much to both teams. But this one perhaps means more than usual, because if Everton lose, then for them it will be that deflating, the run of form they've been on. Then to lose to Liverpool in the derby will be like, oh, it's just like every other season. Maybe those first 4 games were a bit of luck. Maybe we're not as strong as we thought, and it might derail the massive run they're on.
I'd love to see that happen.
And if Liverpool lose, Liverpool have been sort of shaky. They haven't quite been as dominant as they were coming off the back of their last result. If they lose now the Merseyside derby, that's 2 really disappointing defeats in a row. And it could really shake their confidence. And they do seem to be a side that, for whatever reason, is slightly struggling with the mentality of going into games at the moment. And I think Klopp will hate that. I think he'll be really annoyed to come out of this game losing and know that he's going to have a mountain to climb to get them ready for the next one. So it's a lot rides on it. I think you look at the sides on paper, Liverpool should win this. They've got the quality across the side. They should be able to pull off a victory. Even with the new look Everton, I think Liverpool should be able to win. But you never can tell with a derby, and Everton are flying. They're coming in. I think you got to look at the fact that, like Nick said, a couple of their players have travelled really far, and that's going to be a factor. That's something that could play a role. But and I think we will see that this is going to be a really tight game that will probably turn on defensive errors, and both sides are prone to it. And I think that'll be the decisive factor. I think it's probably going to be a draw, but if I had to pick a winner, I'd pick Everton. I just think they're looking good. They're looking a bit ruthless, and you saw it against Spurs in the very first game of the season. They waited. Spurs felt dominant. I watched the whole game, and it felt like Spurs were building up to a win, and then they just couldn't pull it off. And Everton punished us, and they defended really well once they got that lead. Pickford was not Pickford today.
And at that time, there were still a lot of new players thrown together, and they still did that against you guys.
Yeah. So I think this is the kind of game that Ancelotti actually kind of builds for, and I think Everton could snatch a win here. I think it could be an unexpected 2-1 or 1-0 victory Everton's way.
And that is a valid point. That is a valid point. I think normally when this fixture comes up for any Everton manager and all the squad players, they look at this fixture and they start going, here we go again. They're not too motivated. With Ancelotti now, they're going, yeah, let's go do this. We league leaders. Let's take these oaks out. We can do this. So that belief, there's definitely that X factor. Nick, what do you think is going to happen here?
I think I'd said I do think it's going to be a 2-1 win for Liverpool.
Nick, I forgot you reshuffled. Playing musical chairs here.
I thought I missed something, but my line dropped. But yeah, I think it's 2-1 win.
2-1 win, Nick. Wonga, what do you think? What's going to happen here?
I'm just looking back at the Arsenal game. Liverpool had a strong performance. I think everyone can agree. Like, you're watching the game and you're like, okay, sharp, but there's nothing you can do. Van Dijk was on point, nothing was going through, and it was just the result was inevitable. But saying that, Lacazette had a chance. He scored one chance he got. The second chance it came in. There was still a chance there.
And Alisson was in goal, yeah.
Yeah, and so now you've got Adrian in goals. He's probably most likely going to make a mistake, and I think also there's still opportunities. Even though if Liverpool play their strong game, they do well. There's most likely going to be a chance, and that's what Everton's going to be looking for. Is that once that chance comes, they punish, they execute on it, and they get their goal, and they do have the quality. As we've seen from the past games, it's not been like they do have the quality to actually bury those chances. So I do think an Everton win is on the cards. But again, like I said, I think looking at Liverpool's run, I would lean towards Liverpool actually taking the game. It would be a nice story for Everton to win it. But geez, Liverpool, I just think on their day they can just break down everything and make it really problematic for you to score. Yeah. But Arjuna, forget about him, man.
He does. He definitely adds. He adds like this unpredictable dynamic there.
Yeah, it takes a lot out. Because now Liverpool, you've got him at the back. You can't. It's really dicey. I think they're going to be looking for it. It's really dicey passing the ball back to him. You're passing the ball to him and everyone's going. You'll probably be hearing the crowd. If they were there, they'll be like, hey, on his back. Every time he gets the ball.
The studio is going to be making that noise. Oh, every time the ball goes to.
Yeah. So.
So fair enough. I think on that note, you've got the players who've gone away from international weekend. Klopp mentioned it just before. It's not ideal circumstances. You've got 2 guys coming back from Corona. You've got another one who's still got Corona in the likes of Shaqiri. Not that he was going to play anyway. But you saw Thiago. Thiago's definitely going to feature because in the training session, there's a moment. I don't know if anyone saw this on Twitter, but they hit this past him across the field and he controls it in the air with the outside of his foot. Yeah. And he puts it on his chest and he just starts juggling and then he smacks it again across and you just see Milner walking past going like that. And I love it. So I think he's going to feature. I think that's going to be, if he comes on, it's going to be a huge difference. Like you guys said, Adrian at the back of the goals. I sound like a broken record right now or stuck record. He's unpredictable with Calvert-Lewin being as confident as he is at the moment. Any chance falling into the box is a potential goal. So for Liverpool, it's going to be very key for them to keep them out of the box, play like they normally do. We know Ancelotti's going to set up how he does for the bigger games. He's going to sit deeper. He's going to obviously wait for his chance. The difference between last week's game or the week before against Aston Villa and in Everton is Everton don't have that pace on a breakaway as what Aston Villa had. So that could work to Liverpool's advantage. We do have Jota, who's just come back from Portugal's international games. The man last night was absolutely on fire. He scored 2 goals. He had an assist. He could have had a hat-trick. He was Portugal's best player. Matinho over there in our bottom right corner is agreeing because he's half Portuguese. He's got a spousal visa, I'm sure.
Matinho.
So what's lovely about that is you've got a player in Jota who's going to put a Salah and a Mane and a Firmino, Sello's favorite player, under pressure if they're not performing because the guy's going to come off and he's going to give that energy, that extra buzz. So overall, I think, Liverpool should get something. They should get something. They should. And the best part about this is we know how they perform in the big games. Liverpool, they love it. Everton creating a bit of a status. There's going to be nothing better for Klopp to come out there and pull the rug underneath his feet and just remind the neighbors, the noisy neighbors. Sello knows this, the noisy neighbor story, just who the real bosses in Merseyside are. But I think the likelihood, if I was betting on the game, would probably be a draw because I think it's something Ancelotti wouldn't mind walking away with. I think they're going to frustrate Liverpool, and it all depends on whether or not Thiago comes off the bench. Yeah.
That's cool, yeah?
And I think that's the show. Everyone here, it's past Wonga's big time. He was already trying to run away, saying his battery wasn't, or his battery of his laptop was dying, but that wasn't the case. I think he was just looking for his pillow straight after this. Thank you, Sello. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Musa. Thank you, Matt. We'll see you guys next week. Good luck for the weekend and come back with some energy, guys.
Thanks for everyone for tuning in. Yeah.
Shut.
Cheers. Bye.